Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy? 10-4. All clear. Over and out.
Rolling, no looking back. My team is for real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them death. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flag. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now. Don't like the Cowboys on this side of town. I know a few Cowboys who pretty and brown. Say she a fan, but she never too proud. Feel like Santana, I turn it around. Turn on the jets, McLaren, McLaurin, that's vertical threats. They sleep on the best, we bring out the weapon, they handle the rest. Bringing the pain and we making the sweat. Left out some names which I got my respect. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flag. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Look how we step. Where my soldiers? Right side. Who do we rep? Where my soldiers? Left side. Look how we step. Where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Who do we rep? Where my soldiers?
And Sean Taylor, the safety, just comes up and unloads him. Oh, man.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy? 10-4. All clear. Over and out.
Rolling, no looking back. My team is for real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them death. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flag. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now. Don't like the Cowboys on this side of town. I know a few Cowboys who pretty and brown. Say she a fan, but she never too proud. Feel like Santana, I turn it around. Turn on the jets, McLaren, McLaurin, that's vertical threats. They sleep on the best, we bring out the weapon, they handle the rest. Bringing the pain and we making the sweat. Left out some names which I got my respect. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. you don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them dead. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet hit the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 34 of the Commanders Gridiron Report. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and we are back on this evening. Normally I try to do it during the day, but the schedule this week has been wild personally and professionally. Been trying to keep things rocking and rolling, and I have, but I've had to put some things on the back burner, and unfortunately the podcasts were it. So looking at things now, we are here on Friday night, just about 34 minutes away from midnight here on the East Coast, if you are rocking and rolling with Eastern Standard Time. But yes, we are here for episode 34 of the Commanders Gridiron Report tonight, that is brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Shout out to Team MBS Media as well for having us on their YouTube channel. But we are here for the Commanders Gridiron Report. Like I said, episode 34 tonight to discuss the previous Week 11 action that happened not yesterday on Thursday, but the previous Thursday night football game between the Eagles and the Commanders. And in this matchup, the Eagles defeated the Commanders in a pivotal division game. And we would definitely go through the rundown of that here throughout this episode and preview the Week 12 matchup between the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland for the Washington Commanders. Let's get this thing started, though, with the 1st and 10 and go ahead and discuss what happened in that past game.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
And here with the 1st and 10 this past Thursday night, a week from yesterday's Thursday night game. But it was Week 11 on November 14th in that 8:15 game between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. And in this game, special teams was a miscue at certain points for this team known as the Eagles. And, there were some miscues by the Commanders as well that we would definitely break down, especially in the Burgundy Flex review. But looking at this game, the Commanders started out with an early lead, 7-0, but it was based on the fact that Jake Elliott missed a field goal for the Eagles in the first quarter. He would also do that again in the second quarter when he would have another attempt to what he could have had a 7-6 game had he made the first 2 field goal attempts into the second quarter. It wouldn't really matter later into the game, though, but early on, it kind of did for momentum. I mean, it kind of hurt some things when Elliott was missing those field goals for the Eagles, but luckily they stuck to the run because at first it wasn't working for the Eagles. They were kind of stopping the run a little bit throughout the first half, that being the Commanders. Saquon had a couple plays here and there, but he didn't really explode until the third and fourth quarter when he was scoring those 2 touchdowns later on. And the Reed Blankenship interception definitely made a difference in that game too. And we'll definitely break all that down between both teams here in this game. But in order to thoroughly do that, we have to take things to the Burgundy Flex review where we've got pictures and I'll go through stats and break it down even more. But let's go ahead and get to that segment in the Burgundy Flex review.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like that.
And here with the Burgundy Flex review, we're going to take a look at some highlights from this game. This is the matchup between 2 division rivals in the NFC East that have played one another many, many times throughout the decades. They get 2 matchups per year, and this one was the first of 2 that we had in this 2024 season, as the Commanders had only faced the Giants twice, and of course beat them twice, which helped out the division record. But they have the Eagles in this past Thursday night game, along with the Cowboys, to really start getting things moving throughout the remainder of this season, where they have to face all the remainder of the division rivals. So with 7 games left in the season at this point going into Thursday night football, they come into this game with still having 6 of those 7 games being against division opponents. So it's kind of a tough schedule for the Commanders, because regardless if the Cowboys are winning or losing, or the Eagles are winning and losing, or the Giants, they're pretty close matchups, except for the second game against the Giants. But that's when things were really unraveling at the quarterback position, with the offense. The Giants just recently released Daniel Jones today on this Friday after, going through the depths of dropping him to the 3rd string after a bye week, going through all that, and then waiting this long to release him. If no teams pick him up, he still owed $1.97 million or something like that per game for the remainder of this year, because of that stupid contract, the stupid contract that he signed. They renegotiated his contract, extended him, and he literally gets $1.97 million per game, even if he doesn't play. So that's absolutely wild. So Daniel Jones gets that for the Giants. We helped get him out the door with the 2 wins over them with the Commanders. But in this Thursday night game, the highlights we have to look at from Week 11, they faced the division rival Philadelphia Eagles. And Saquon lit it up in the second half, and we'll definitely get to that. But with the first half in this Burgundy Flex review, let's take a look at the Commanders' offenses. They were looking pretty good in the first half. They weren't, rolling like they had been in the previous weeks, but they were doing pretty decent to where they got the touchdown early on, a Brian Robinson 1-yard touchdown run. Zane Gonzalez's kick would make it 7-0 in the first quarter, because the Eagles would fail to convert on a field goal attempt, as Jake Elliott would go on to miss a field goal attempt in the first quarter. Now, in the second quarter, Elliott would have another attempt at a field goal, but he would miss that field goal too. He was 2 of 4 for field goals on the day. I think he even made like a 57-yarder. It was either a 51 or 57-yarder later in the game. It was a 31-yarder and a 21-yarder. My apologies. He didn't have any longs for the day. I was thinking of other kickers from doing Total Football Talk earlier today. But when it comes to him, he was 2 of 4 on field goals with a long of 31 yards. A very, very rough day for Jake Elliott. I know that one of the attempts was like 51 yards. That's what it was with what he did. But he didn't make anything over 50 yards. Barely made anything over 30. But long story short, with the kicker on the Eagles, that was the least of their problems, because they would get things going in the second half. In the first half, though, the Commanders were leading going into halftime. They were leading 7-3 at halftime. 14-3 at halftime. My apologies. But, my apologies. It was 7-3 going into halftime. I read that wrong in my notes. But looking at this and watching the game, the miscues from Jake Elliott, along with the fact that there was some 3rd down and 4th down plays the Commanders were failing to convert on to move the chains. That's why they only scored that Brian Robinson Jr. touchdown in the first half, because their other possessions, 3 and out, not really doing that well moving the ball. Jaden Daniels on the day only went 22 of 32. Yes, it's only 10 incompletions, but for those 22 completions that he only had 191 passing yards. So it was a rough day for Jaden Daniels. Brian Robinson Jr. had 16 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown, but that lone touchdown came in the first half. And Austin Eckler got things going with 8 receptions for 89 yards receiving. Rushing, not as much. He was only 2 carries for 7 yards, but he made an impact in the first half. And this was the one of the attempts that he had at receiver, because he had a little dink and dunk pass that he caught out there for, I think, about 20, 25 yards is what he did on that play, maybe about 30. That muster up about a third of the number for his total of 89 yards for the day. But Austin Eckler, this was the exact play. My man Darrell Owens, Bowie TV, got these photos, and putting these two together, these were the exact same play, just 2 different shots from that play. And shout out to him for getting some great photos that are in this Burgundy Flex review. And on that play, because they got, got a good amount of yardage, of course, he celebrated, and the Eagles got a little chippy. This gave them a little momentum going into the halftime. After Eckler would do this play and get this conversion, this was after they would score the touchdown. But then the Eagles would step it up on defense because of this division rivalry and stop them to where they would not score again in the first half, that being the Commanders. So going into halftime, it was 7-3, not a huge lead. It's also, I was kind of concerned going into halftime. The fact that the Commanders couldn't really get things going consistently, and the Eagles defense was really, holding them well. I mean, it was, they just weren't on their game for that day at one point, but at the same hand, I think the Eagles defense was just much better than the Commanders offense on that day. So I don't really think they were lacking a step. They just couldn't really compete with the Eagles defense at this moment. They still play each other again. And we also have to keep in mind that this game right here was in Philly. I know we're in the Burgundy Flex review, but again, this was in Philly. So big division rivalry here between these two teams. And in the second half, Hurts would get things going. He would start scrambling around, picking up a few yards on the ground a little bit. He wasn't as he was not as conservative as Jaden Daniels was on this day. But looking at how things were between the two quarterbacks in comparison, when you look at Jaden Daniels, he had 191 yards, like I said. Hurts didn't do much better as far as total yardage, still only had 10 incompletions, but he had 221 yards on 18 completions in comparison to Jaden Daniels, who had 22 completions and only 191 yards on the day. So definitely had a lot more production at the quarterback position when it came to the arm. Now on the ground, Jaden Daniels only put up 7 carries for 18 yards in comparison to Jalen Hurts, who ran the ball 10 times. And part of these scrambles out of these 10, attempts that old Jalen Hurts had, he had a rushing touchdown. So he put up 39 yards on the day out of 10 carries and had a rushing touchdown. That was a huge spark in the second half for them, as they were only able to put up a field goal in the first half. So things were looking good for my man Dante, who's in the chat. Got to acknowledge him real quick. But things were looking good for him in the second half. But I was really concerned going into the halftime. I'm serious, because even with a 4-point lead, you just need to score points early if you're going to win against this Eagles team, because they get warmed up in the second half. Again, I was just concerned, and they definitely proved me right when it came to that. I didn't want to be right, but I was. And what's up with released Scary Terry from custody? What is that? I haven't heard anything about Terry McLaurin going into custody, but I will definitely review that during the commercial break and answer this one for you after that. Can we get that I hope the kicker missed voodoo removed, please? I didn't have any voodoo. I didn't give any voodoo. I was just watching the game. I wasn't like praying that he was going to miss the kick or anything. Just things just happened. But in the first half, Jake was not on. In the second half, he was. But in the first half, he was not doing his job, especially with the amount of money they pay him now. And we locked him up all game. Yes. But, Terry on the day, all he really was able to do, he was definitely not at the top of receiving. He only put up 1 catch for 10 yards. Yes, you definitely held him well. I would say the highlight of the receivers, which was the tight end for the Commanders, Zach Ertz had 6 receptions for 47 yards, and he did have a touchdown for the team. So you couldn't really lock him up, and you also have to give him praise for that 2-point conversion at the end. I mean, this is Ertz going against his former team now, Dante, and on that 2-point conversion, he got those feet perfectly in there with literally like a centimeter of space to where he would have been out of bounds. But on that 2-point conversion, he was money for it. It was great. It looked great. Everything was awesome for that. You cannot take that away from Zach Ertz. And speaking of which, we'll talk about him a little bit more later in the show. But between Jalen Hurts scrambling, getting a rushing touchdown, you also have to give major props. The MVP of the game, arguably, was Saquon Barkley, especially in the second half. He had a few breakaway runs in the first half, but not like he did in the second half, because in total yardage, The man put up 146 rushing yards on 26 carries. Rushed for the amount of times that his number is on his jersey in this game and got 146 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and also added 2 receptions for 52 yards on the day. Saquon was on fire for this Philadelphia Eagles team, as well as in the red zone. This was 2 angles from his first of 2 touchdowns that he had on the day. First, crossing the pylon, and second, actually in the end zone. So, shout out to Saquon Barkley because he left the Giants, and I would much rather see him on a team that's competitive with my team for the division. So, very, very good on Saquon Barkley. This was not the end of the damage done because it was in the second half when the Commanders had an opportunity to regain the lead, to regain the momentum, to do something with the game and potentially on the road because they had won some pretty big road games earlier in the season. You got to look at what they did in Cincinnati against Burrow. So here and now, we have to take a look at the one true mistake that Jaden Daniels did on this day. He did throw an interception, and he threw it to Reed Blankenship in the second half. And this is after he caught the interception. The team is celebrating. They are happy because they know at this point that this game is pretty much sealed, as Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts would dap it up there at the end of the game, congratulate each other for how well they're doing in the season. And I'm sure that there was some words spoken for a little bit of advice on how to do things in the NFL, and also just tell him that he's probably playing well, that being the advice from Hurts. He's probably enjoyed seeing what Daniels is doing, which is why I'm even rocking my Jaden Daniels shirt tonight. But it's a story for later on in the show I'll tell you about. But for this, it was awesome to see 2 young quarterbacks, the face of their franchises for the future, and probably the faces of the NFL within the next 10 years. This is going to be something special to watch over the course of the next decade between these 2 teams. Giants and the Cowboys have a lot of work to do to catch up to these 2 teams. And it's just cool for myself that at this point in the season, in comparison to this point in last season when I was doing this show, having this type of discussion about the franchise, because you can go back. I was tough on them last year. They made the moves during the offseason to actually become a respectable team now. They still have a lot of work to do to become truly relevant as a serious contender. They're not a pretender. They're still a very young team. I wouldn't say a pretender. I wouldn't even say at that point yet to be in that conversation, whether they make it as a wild card team or not. They're going to be one and done this year, in my opinion. Very surprised that they win a playoff game. If they do, not going beyond that one win, because there's many, many, many more additions and subtractions you have to make, in my opinion, for this team to be truly relevant, like the team you just faced in the Philadelphia Eagles. So with that being the Burgundy Flex review, taking a look back at this game right here between the 1st and 10, 26-18 game. It was close in score at the end, but not quite that close in the second half as you compare it to the first half. The second half is more important. It's how you close. But with this being the Burgundy Flex review, that's pretty much what we have for that going into our first commercial break that we're about to do. When we come back on the other side, we still have to talk about the MVPs of the game and the Soldiers of the Week. We have the Showstopper segment. Along with later in the show, we have the Opponent of the Week, which is the Cowboys, to break down for you for this weekend. And the Final Drive. After this first commercial break, I'll see you back to discuss all that I just mentioned.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Come some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text delete.
Join these two football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Commanders, where my soldiers? Right there. Commanders, where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 34. We are here to discuss not just the review of the Eagles defeating the Commanders, but the preview for the Week 12 matchup against the Cowboys. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and it looks like during the commercial we had a couple comments. Dante hit it up real quick before we went to commercial, and then he hit it up again during the commercial. We'll see what my man's got to say. So he also says, honestly, I can't wait to see what Washington does with all the picks. Very, very true. They had a decent amount of picks this year, and they still have some picks moving forward. But at the same time, we've got free agency to attack within the next couple of years, in my opinion. There's more moves to be made for this team to build on what they've already established this season. But they're off to a great start. I really like what the management's doing over there. New ownership has definitely brought a breath of fresh air in there. It is very enjoyable. As a fan walking in, about a month ago now, when my man Paul Kelly and I went for the Hail Mary game against the Chicago Bears, it just felt different. I mean, I did media there as, during the Dan Snyder era and worked in the booth and talking with some, compadres that are still working within that media space. They say that the energy is much different in there too. It's much more enjoyable to be in there, where when I was there before, it really felt like work when they were losing, right? I do wish that I could have experienced this while doing that, but, moving on to different things and professionally with the work that I do now, and then with maintaining this brand, I just don't have the time. And the drive to DC from where I'm at is, a couple hours, and that's if you don't hit traffic. You can do it in a decent time, but my schedule now just doesn't mesh with it. So looking at that for what it is, maybe one day can get back into it again, but right here and now, I can say that as a fan going in there during that week, it was a different energy than when the last time I've been there as a fan, because I did media for several years in between the last time I went as a fan. And that time in 2016 in comparison to 2024, much, much different than what I experienced. I've never experienced that energy of them winning, and then that type of win that they got for the Hail Mary. It felt like they won the Super Bowl in my face, and it was definitely fun to be a part of. But yes, definitely be interesting to see what they do with the picks, my man. It's just the first game as well. Finally, a quarterback showdown now. I didn't think either played great, but let's hope they stay healthy. I mean, the defense for the Commanders did pretty decent too, which will break down some stars from the defense from both teams. But Frankie Louvu did pretty good. I mean, he had 4 tackles, 6 assists, and he also had a sack or 2 in there as well. He put the pressure on Hurts. There was pressure being applied by both defenses, but the Eagles had the leg up on it. I'll give you that, though, as far as, they didn't really play that great, but I think it was just because of the type of level the defense was on for both sides. Just the Commanders defense ran out of gas in the second half, and they still need some help over there too. And Lattimore's still not playing yet. So hopefully he'll be in for the Cowboy game. I don't have an update on that yet, but at the same time, that made an impact in this game too. Had Lattimore been healthy from the trade, because he still hasn't played yet from the trade, came in and played in the secondary. You guys were lighting us up in the secondary on some of those breakaways that Saquon was having, that if we had somebody in the secondary that would have helped stop some of those long runs, for one, but also will help contain the pass in the secondary as well too. That's what they traded for. So definitely good quarterback showdown in the future, though, within the next decade, I do believe. And just look up Guantanamo Bay when they look for Scary Terry. Yes, because they held him to only 1 catch for 10 yards. I got you, my man. And big beatdown coming in against Dallas. They don't have a quarterback, unless they said they signed Danny Dimes. He's on the street now from the Giants, getting released today. So there's an option for you. But beyond that, let's go ahead and take this into the Stars of the Game segment, where we talk about the Soldiers of the Week, break down who we think overall here at Showstopper Media are the highlights, or the players that brought the highlights between the Eagles and the Commanders. Since it was a close game, we do have, honorary members for both teams.
Where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
And here with the Soldiers of the Week, we're going to go ahead and start it with the team that won, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. We're going to go ahead and bring them up on the screen right now. Here they are. Saquon Barkley, I believe, in my opinion, is the number 1 Soldier of the Week with 26 carries for 146 rushing yards. You also have to take a look at the fact that he had 2 rushing touchdowns as part of that, and they all came in the second half. He put up probably 100 yards of that rushing total in the second half, and primarily in the end of the third and beginning of the fourth quarter. He also had 2 receptions for 52 yards throughout this game and put a damper on the Washington Commanders defense. When this wasn't happening with Saquon, Washington was doing pretty good at containing things, but Saquon broke through. He had a lot of short carries, but he also had some breakaway carries after wearing down that front defensive line with all those runs earlier on in the game. Jalen Hurts had 18 completions out of 28 attempts with 221 passing yards. Did not throw an interception, did not throw a touchdown, but he did have a rushing touchdown as well in this game in the second half. He had 10 carries for those rushing totals for 39 rushing yards. And we also have to take a look at Reed Blankenship for the Eagles. He had that 1 interception that was thrown by Jaden Daniels in the second half. He also contributed with 4 tackles for 6 assists throughout the game as well. When it comes to the Soldiers of the Week for the Commanders, though, I have to give a shout out to Brian Robinson Jr. He tried to compete with Saquon on the other side, but even though he had just 10 carries less than Saquon, he only mustered up 63 rushing yards on the day with 1 rushing touchdown as well. Frankie Louvu had 6 tackles, 4 assists, and 2 sacks, as I was talking about earlier. So I had it backwards. He had 6 tackles and not 4, and he had 4 assists and not 6, but he did get 2 sacks as part of all those statistics in this game. And Zach Ertz, the former Philadelphia Eagle, who then went to the Cardinals and is now with the Commanders, had 6 receptions for 47 yards on the day, and also had the 1 lone touchdown that was passed by Jaden Daniels. So looking at this game for what it is, do you guys agree with my choices for the Soldiers of the Week for both the Eagles and the Commanders? If the game is, pretty much decided within 1 possession or less, well, you can't really be less. 1 possession, like a touchdown or a field goal, I generally give it to both teams since the Commanders are actually competitive this year. But when you look at the 2 sets of Soldiers of the Week, though, it's arguably in the favor for the Eagles, as they had the best Soldiers of the Week but you have to give honorary mentions, especially when you look at what Luvu did. Zach Ertz, the former, Philadelphia Eagle, and he had that huge 2-point conversion as well. I forgot to put that in this graphic. And Brian Robinson Jr., well, he tried, but he also had a rushing touchdown, and you can't take that away from him in this game. Dante says, Zach went off at the end, but who was the rookie corner? The rookie corner for you, like the rookie corner for you on the Eagles? Is that the question you're asking? Because I'm not too sure when it comes to that for you. Because I'm drawing a blank for that. If you were asking me about corners for, you're talking about on the Commanders, the rookie corner that they've got in place of Lattimore right now. When I go down the list, it's Mike Sanistro, number 0, if that's who you're talking about. He's a rookie this year. If you're talking about number 0, I believe that's him, and I believe he is a quarterback. I'm just kind of, because of the time of the day, drawing a blank. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and click on him, number 0, and he is a cornerback. So, yes, he is the rookie cornerback, because I don't know of any other ones that we have as rookies on the team that are playing consistently at cornerback. But when you look at what Lattimore will be able to do to help him out, and also give him props within, I wouldn't say props, but tips on how to play as a professional. He's not doing horrible, but someone of Lattimore's caliber who's still in his 20s, who can still, mesh well with these younger guys who are 21, 22, 23 years old. He's not much older, but he's also a seasoned veteran who played with people like Drew Brees and was there for the very end of the Saints' success, but also was there for when things fell apart, just like when things were falling apart for many years for the Commanders. He can relate. So he can also help these new rookies adapt to where they don't go backwards to that point. So, yes, Sandstro had a pretty good game. He had 3 tackles on the day and 3 assists as well. You also got to probably give an honorable mention to Jeremy Chin, who had 9 tackles for 3 assists, and he's been playing pretty well in these past few games. So he's been another great addition that was brought over in free agency from this past offseason. But, even Dante says that he played well. So he agrees with who I've got for my Soldiers of the Week. Let's go ahead and take it into the showstopper and talk about the adjustments that this team can make from the loss and what to look for ahead when we talk about the mother-fathering Cowboys. Let's take it to the showstopper.
High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
And here with the showstopper, what can this team do to make adjustments from the Week 11 loss? And yes, another loss for this team. I mean, have they been losing a lot this year? No, it's only 4 losses that they've had. But when you look at everything else in comparison, they still have a pretty tough schedule when you look at the divisional matchups that this team has for the remainder of the year. It's definitely nothing to bat an eye at. And for the adjustments that they can make, they're still having a hard time with, I would say, consistency throughout all 4 quarters of a game. It's either they're struggling to start the game, and then they really pick it up in the second half, and then they regain the lead, hold on to it, and win. Or you could also argue that going back to the Bears game, they gave them some momentum. It completely crushed the Bears. But at the same time, a win like that, you can't rely on those type of comeback victories all the time. And then when the pressure's on and you throw the pick to Reed Blankenship like you did in the past game, it's the turnovers that kill you. So they're going to have to secure the ball a little bit better in this next game against the Cowboys, because even though their offense is absolutely trash over there in Big D, you got to give the respect to their defense, because it's not a horrible defense. And if you play like you did in this past week against the Eagles, you're going to keep the Cowboys in the game to where they might get lucky with some type of defensive turnover and score a go-ahead touchdown or something, and then the clock might be against you, and in their favor, they pull an upset. I think, though, in Big D, that the Cowboys want to secure a top 1 to 2 to 3 pick next year, and I wouldn't say they're on purpose tanking publicly, but you could argue that they want to get Shadur Sanders or Travis Hunter and be a part of the top 2 or 3 picks, since Travis Hunter will probably go first overall. they're going to want to take Shedeur Sanders and try to have some type of chance to bring in Primetime as their coach if all the rumors are true. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the Commanders have a really good chance to win this game this upcoming weekend on Sunday. But right here and now, for the adjustments that they have to make after the loss to kind of secure that, one, they cannot turn the ball over. That is going to be absolutely killer no matter who you're playing. Was it an absolutely horrible interception to where he threw it like right to Reed Blankenship? No. It was a contested ball, and Reed Blankenship did a really great job. He played that play really well and just read Jaden Daniels and what he was doing in that moment, which if other teams take a chapter out of what Reed Blankenship just did in that game and review it and study it, it can be a lot more of that if Jaden Daniels isn't careful. I don't think that's going to be the case. He doesn't seem like somebody who's going to commit a lot of turnovers. I could be wrong. I don't ever see him having a game like Jared Goff did and throwing 5 interceptions in a game. That's not saying that the Commanders are better than the Lions. No, because they are a very good, well-rounded team right now. They are the number 1 team in the NFC, and they are, in my opinion, could be the number 1 team in the NFL before it's all said and done this season. But that's another discussion for another show. Check out Total Football Talk if you want to get more of my opinion on that. Bing! In the words of my man Kyle Nash and what he says after he gives a shout-out to one of his projects. But right here and now, when it comes to this, again, can't turn the ball over. You also need to do a better job in the secondary of your defense, which I've been preaching that all year long. And hopefully soon you will get the help you need with Marshawn Lattimore. It is definitely something I'm going to review over the commercial break and do a little bit more digging on. But with the showstopper, a little bit more better work on defense. Shouldn't be giving up 26 points with the caliber of players that you have on your defense. And at the other side of everything, you also have to not turn the ball over. And you need to be able to rely on your special teams too, which Gonzalez didn't make any mistakes. He was 1 for 1 and had like a 40-yard field goal to give them, 3 points and help keep them in the game early on. But you also can't rely on utilizing that way too much either. So looking at it for what it is, those are the adjustments I feel like they need to make. They've made many adjustments throughout the offseason, and not just personnel, not just coaching, but how they run their offense and their defense, because there's a whole new coaching staff between all 3 phases, between offense, defense, special teams, and the head coach, as well as you got a new management style in the front office that was established last year, and they started cutting things out, breaking things down, and this is what you've got. So you can see more success for this Commanders team throughout this year, and they may get to double-digit victories because they're only 3 victories away, and if they win against the Cowboys this Sunday, they'll already be at 8 wins on the year with like 5 games left to play. So congratulations to the Commanders for being at this point, for setting themselves up for this type of success, and look forward to seeing what kind of adjustments they make, because you're playing a team that it's pretty easy to beat in the moment. Just don't take them too lightly. Put the pressure on early, seal this game, get some rest for your starters because you need it with what you've got going on here in the future with these other teams. With that being said, we're going to take it to our last commercial break, and when we come back, we still have to talk about that opponent of the week in this Cowboys game. I'm going to give you my preview for it and what I think is going to transpire after this next commercial break. And it's our last commercial break, so enjoy it and the previews that you have to come before the last 2 segments.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. $, D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie the bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. About some Willie bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commanders Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be repped right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commanders Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J.KUL.
Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 34. We've already broken down what happened in this past Thursday night's game against the Philadelphia Eagles as they won that pivotal division game. I am Drew Willingham as we are going to now preview this Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go ahead and take it into the opponent of the week.
Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
And here for the opponent of the week for week 12, Dallas Cowboys come to Northwest Stadium to take on the Washington Commanders. Dallas Cowboys 3-7 at this point in the year, playing like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans, as we thought they would with the moves they did not make this past offseason. The Washington Commanders, though, with their moves, are now 7-4 at this point. Regardless of just losing a game, they are still in second place in the NFC East. This Sunday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. This game right here, I guess I got to give a prediction of what's going to happen. Based on what the Cowboys have done in their previous games, they lost 34-10 on Monday Night Football to the Houston Texans. They lost 34-6 the game before that to the Philadelphia Eagles. And the last time they had a close game was against the Falcons when Dak Prescott was still playing, and he only put up 18 completions out of 24 18 completions out of 24 attempts in that game because he got hurt. And we haven't seen him since. We will not see him for the remainder of this year, and potentially not as a Dallas Cowboy again if they make some of the moves these rumors are predicting to make in this offseason. Because Kirk Cousins lit it up with 3 touchdowns in that game and beat the Cowboys. And that one right there, that game is where everything started to shift. Even though they haven't won a game since they beat the Steelers on October 6th in Pittsburgh, because they've lost 5 consecutive games. They got mollywopped by the Lions 47-9 on October 13th. They got beat in a close game against the 49ers in San Francisco, but again, they still got beat 2 games in a row there. You follow that one up with a loss to the Falcons like we were just talking about where Dak got hurt. Then they got absolutely decimated in the game against the Eagles. And again, the following week to the Texans. And now they're playing the Commanders, who have been red hot and are looking for a game to get their momentum back. And this is where it starts, and especially when it's at home. You have the home crowd. It's an early game. You get it on over with. The Cowboys are coming off of a Monday night embarrassment of a game. I think when you look at this, it's pretty easy to say that the Washington Commanders are going to serve the Cowboys the big fat. But then, of course, you still have those delusional Cowboy fans out there that make it to where Cole Johnson makes segments like, or not segments, but transitions like these. And I have to give him a shout out for the permission to use it during times like these when the Commanders are playing this team.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Because if the Cowboys think they're going to come into Northwest Stadium and have their way with the Commanders, especially with Cooper Rush as the quarterback, who had 15 completions a couple weeks ago for 45 yards, is absolutely terrible. And if you think that he's going to come in and win,
hell to the no, to the no, 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 hell no, no, to the no, no.
The Cowboys are an absolute. If you think otherwise,
you should know your role and shut your mouth.
Because if you are that Cowboys fan that thinks that you're going to go watch this Northwest Stadium game, well, go to Northwest Stadium and watch this game because you live in the area and you want to root against the Commanders, I'm telling you right now, right the mother, father now, it is not going to happen, and you need to
stay off the weed.
And potentially
stop it. Get some help
as well.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Was that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Let me talk to you.
Cowboy fans, you are going to get served, though. And if you disagree, we're going to wonder this.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Oh! Damn! If you're upset at all that, then you know you
can't handle the truth.
And now,
acknowledge me.
Button clicking greatness. I'm just kidding. Out here in these streams, you still, as a Cowboys fan, know you're going to take those.
Now, that is absurd.
Is it? I'm not too sure if it is, because I think that people out there feel this way.
You like that? You like that?
Absolutely. I'm just kidding. But when it comes to this game right here, I see the Commanders winning by 2 possessions. And that could be 10 points. I mean, that could be a field goal and a touchdown. In adding those together, they win by 10 points, and then that's how the game goes. But I feel like it's going to be more than 10 points because look in comparison to how the Cowboys have lost the past 2 games, even though it's a division rival and it could be close, I just don't see it. I don't see it in this game, especially the way they lost to the Texans and the Eagles. And the Commanders are of the caliber, I would say, of the Texans, so of what they played in this past week. You know, the Texans have regressed a little bit from where they were last year. The Commanders are kind of like nipping at the heels as that kind of team for the NFC. You know, still in contention, but not quite there yet because they're a very young team, and you know the coaching staff and the players and all still have to continue to gain more momentum and consistency, and all that comes in chemistry, and all that comes with more time together and another offseason to continue to develop the growth of this team. So the Cowboys are nowhere near that. And for everybody agreeing with me,
What's that?
oh, you know, absolutely. But when it comes to this right here for this game, Commanders are winning by 2 possessions. I'm going to say by 10 points or more. I usually say by 7 or less or 10 or less, but I think it's by 10 or more, and it's double digits. I will be very shocked if it's less than that. I will also be very shocked if the Commanders serve the L to the if the Cowboys serve the L to the Commanders. I'll be totally
surprise, motherfucker.
I don't think that's going to happen. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll talk about it. But right here and now, nah, Cowboys are losing. So when it comes to that, that's the opponent of the week for the Commanders team. We have one more segment to get to, but before we get to that, I do have this for you. Oh, yeah. It's time for breaking news. And that breaking news is this. Marshon Lattimore is out again this weekend. So hopefully after this week against the Cowboys, he gets the rest and can be ready to play against the Giants the following week. But I got a feeling we might not see. I mean, they don't play the Giants the following week. My bad. That's the Cowboys to play the Giants the following week. The Commanders will play the Titans in the following game against the Tennessee. They'll play against the Titans in Washington still. So they have back-to-back home games. And they get a little bit of time off in between as well. So looking at that for what it is, Marshon Lattimore might not play until the Titans game, potentially a little bit longer than that because he's out this Sunday. That's the breaking news that I have for you. At the latest, I don't see him being out till December 15th because they play the Cowboys this week. Then the following week, they play the Titans. Then they have their bye week. So that would be 2 more games he would miss. He would miss a total of 4 games after the trade then going into the bye week. I think if he's healthy enough, he'll be playing by the following game against the Titans on December 1st after this Cowboy game because you got to test it. You can always go out there, test it for a few plays. If it's not feeling right, unless the doctors are telling them no, then of course don't do it. But if it's just, not quite there, you can go out there and test it a little bit, and then you still have a bye week the following week. I just don't know the severity of it, but apparently it's pretty serious if he still hasn't played since the trade. And this is a position that he would make a huge impact at if he is healthy and can play to the level of what we've seen him play over there in New Orleans, because he was one of the bright spots for that defense. I'm hoping that the same Marshon Lattimore can come bring those same type of bright spots to this Washington Commanders team. We'll talk a little bit more about some of those types of bright spots here in the final drive. Here with the final drive, basically wrap this thing up, put a bow on it each and every episode. This is like the segment for where I do that. And, I want to touch up a little bit on the Marshon Lattimore injury. Again, I don't want to say force him out there if he's not quite ready yet, but if he's just experiencing some soreness, test it out for a few plays. I mean, practice, you're not going to get that type of development. You really need to get game time speed within this Commanders defense down, or at least help incorporate it to how when things are done for this team. I mean, when you not say done, but when you get into the game for this team, you make a huge impact because they're going to know how you work. Because watching film isn't always quite enough preparation to be able to adjust to a new player that has joined the team via trade, via signing, via draft, this, that, and the third. And you didn't have that time in training camp, OTAs, and all that stuff with them earlier in the year. So, hopefully you're doing a good job studying the playbook because you really need this time with this team if they're even going to be considered a serious playoff team come the end of the year. We need to start seeing, the dividends of that trade. And hopefully you're healthy enough to show it soon. But it's very tough to think that the Commanders would trade for someone and then it could be a month before they actually get to have him be part of the team. That's something I'm very concerned about. Very concerned about the future for him. I hope he doesn't have to go on IR, but then I feel like the Saints would need to give the Commanders some type of compensation in return if that ended up being the case, because now Lattimore, since the trade, has missed 2 games. And he needs to make an impact for this team somehow, and he's not quite doing it just yet. So with my final drive, my closing thoughts, I'm very concerned about how that trade's going to end up for this team, especially with them being announced 12 hours ago that he's not going to be playing in this Sunday's matchup against the Cowboys. I wish Marshon Lattimore a healthy recovery from this hamstring injury. Maybe because they're not playing a serious team in Dallas, they don't want to take a chance on getting him further injured. But you also got to look at the fact that your next 2 games against the Titans, and then after the bye week, you have the Saints. You're pretty much playing 3 shit-tastic teams between now and in the end of the next 3 games. So take it for what it is. You need to get them on out there, and that's how I feel with this situation right here. Well, when it comes to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 34, we have reached an hour's worth of time elapsed. It's about the average amount of time that we spend for the episode. Got a good amount out for the recap of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Commanders game from the previous week, where the Eagles did their job, and they proved to be the better team right now, not just on paper, but on the field as well. So shout out to my man Dante, who is a fan of the rival team, but has been very active in the comments for this episode. Definitely appreciate him taking the time out of his evening to be here to watch a rival episode and to support me out here for SHOWSTOPPER Media. Definitely is pretty awesome to be able to see people come together, even if they are not a particular fan of the subject being primarily covered in the episode. But I appreciate him and the time that he spent out here in the chat. Sick Diggy was here earlier tonight when we had Total Football Talk. I want to give a shout out to him, but he is in Norway, probably asleep right now because it is 7:20 in the morning, as they are 7 hours ahead in that country over there, known as Norway. But he'll check out the replay and hopefully see this at some point and drop a comment after in the replay. But this upcoming week broke down as well the preview for the Dallas Cowboys game. Again, I don't take them serious. We could see Marcus Mariota in there at some point at quarterback when things get a little too out of hand, just to save Jaden Daniels for the upcoming week and to give him a little bit of rest, because don't want to take any chances. They still haven't had a bye week, and he's still been battling through those bruised ribs that he got several weeks back. And I'm just glad he was able to tough it out and make it for that Hail Mary game that I was there in attendance for. It was definitely pretty cool to see that. But my thoughts heading into this Week 12 game, Commanders are winning. They are still, in my opinion, no matter how you dice it up, are going to serve this to the Cowboys. I'm looking forward to the game after the Saints game when they play the Eagles again on December 22nd, right before Christmas, because it'll actually be competitive again. I wouldn't say competitive again as to there's not going to be any of those bad teams that are competitive after this Cowboys game. I just don't think this upcoming Sunday's game is going to be that competitive, in my opinion. I'm just looking forward to December 22nd when we can play this clip for the Eagles again.
Let's get ready to rumble! Oh, my brother, testify!
And to put some icing on the cake or the bow on the present, we got to play old Bruce.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Absolutely. Man, this has been a fun episode. I wish I can get it back to an earlier time in the day, or at least for this week I wish I could have. But again, it's been a pretty busy week for myself. And just still each and every week, it might not be at the time that I would want to or the day for this show, but at least the content's still coming. You know, not just for the fans of my channel over here at SHOWSTOPPER Media, but for those who watch this show on Team MBS Media as well. So shout out to you guys over there watching this here. Shout out to you guys watching it at a different time than I would like to have it. I would like to have it Tuesdays at 1:05, but my schedule currently isn't cooperating with that. So thank you very much. And thank you to the real Benjamin for tuning in as well over there on Team MBS Media. So shout out to you guys out there. Look forward to hopefully collaborating again, with some of you guys, or, getting, more than just Joe Cardoso on here to do some discussions of football, with the new year and everything. Now that I'm about to get acclimated to this schedule I just recently switched to, definitely can work with you guys and get some more content out here at some point. But just have to continue to balance things out, get things in when I can, and not get episodes out midnight here on the East Coast. So hoping to get this out Tuesday afternoon, but we'll see. Just got to wish me luck throughout this weekend, and we'll see what's popping off out here in these streams. Again, I am Drew Willingham, and we've only got one more thing to mother-fathering do as we head on out of here. And that's look at one badass outro. Everyone, as always, thank you for tuning in to this episode 34. And most importantly, stay safe out there in these streets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side. Commanders, where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders, where my soldiers? Now we step, where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders, we red, where my soldiers? Left side. Now we step, where my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders, we red, where my soldiers?
SHOWSTOPPER Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.